Welcome to the Retail Initiative podcast. I have a really special episode for you today that I'm so excited to bring you into. So a few months ago, I hosted an event called the Manifest Workshop with my friend Tara Austin. She owns Ruthie Grace Boutique. We've done this event every year for the last few years, and every year it continues to grow. And honestly, the feedback we get on it is incredible. Now, this episode, my friend Ashley Alderson from the Boutique Hub, which I'm a huge fan of, I've been part of for several years. She joined us and she did a keynote on the second day. And then at the end, I didn't tell her about this, but I got on stage and I wanted to talk about community over competition, which if you're familiar with the Boutique Hub, you've heard that a ton. If you're not, it's the idea of we don't have to all just act in competition with each other, but we can really see it as a retail industry as when one ship rises, so does the other. A rising tide lifts all ships. But then, so we may say we believe in that, but then another store in town starts carrying our stuff or starts kind of copying our pieces, and it gets really hard when the rubber meets the road. And so I walked on stage at the end of her talk and I was like, hey, let's have a seat. I want to talk about community over competition. And that's what you're about to hear. So I'm going to take you inside the event, something that people paid a decent amount of money to attend. And this is as a free gift to you. I really think you're going to get a lot of encouragement from this episode. So let's dive right into the interview. Good morning. How are you doing? Gotta be honest, I did not sleep well. Anyone not sleep well last night? Okay, a few people. My brain was doing this thing where it's all right, dress rehearsal for tomorrow. Let's run through it. Let's make sure we have all the things checked. And also, don't call me for point of sale. We have not done that. And does anyone like point of sale? That is how I got into retail initially, which what was fascinating about that was I got to see behind the scenes, the nitty gritty of how hundreds of retail businesses work. And eventually you start to learn some things. And through the years, we transitioned to entirely e-commerce, and that's, the capacity we work with Ruthie Grace now. So yeah, it's been a fascinating story, but I'm excited that you are here. What I want to ask each of you is, why are you here? And I actually want a few of you to call out. Why are you at Manifest this year? Yeah, you two in the back. Okay, awesome. Meredith.
I feel like me as myself, I've done what I can do with my business, and I know it can go to greater lengths, so I've done what I can do with that. So I feel like this is a good place to start to inspire myself and motivate myself and see what I can do with my business even further, because it has so much reach, but I don't know how to get there.
Yeah. It's great. So anyone resonate with Tia? Is that right? With what she said, kind of feeling a little bit burnout and needing that inspiration. Anyone resonate a little bit with Meredith and your business has gotten to here and you're like, but what gets me to here? Okay, anyone else? Someone called something out over here. Same thing, all right. I think for a lot of us, I should probably make sure my slides, It'd be great if this guy was working. Okay. When I think about why most of us are here, I think to some degree you could probably summarize it by growth. Now, it could be growth from next to nothing, and it could be growth from you've gotten to here, you want to get to there. And how do we get to that level? And so our hope for you is that the content that we've put together over the next 2 days is able to equip you to get to that point. Regardless of where you're coming in, our hope is that we can equip you with that. And so I want to dig in some to the theme of this event and where it came from. And so the theme of this year, this is killing me. Michael, can you just stay there? Thank you. Is focus. And where focus came from, actually, it was a little bit of what Tara shared last night. And then I was reading a book that every business got at least one copy called 10X is Easier Than 2X. And it was a fascinating read. And the premise behind this book is there is what's called a 2X mentality and there is what's called a 10x mentality. A 2x mentality is we want to grow. We just want to grow. And a 10x mentality is what would it take to 10x this business? If 3 years from now this business had to be 10 times what it is today, what would that do? Now here's where this is fascinating. If I asked you, hey, what do you need to do to increase sales 10% next year? What would you guys start to think about? I think most of us would land at this conclusion. I'm going to do what I do now, and I'm going to do more of it. I'm going to do exactly what I do right now. But if I say, hey, you need to 10x this thing over the next 3 years, where are you going to focus? That path is far less nuanced than the path to just grow a little bit. It is not doing more. It is actually a completely different approach. It is saying, okay, when I put my effort, my energy into things, all of us know that we've all heard of Pareto's principle, the 80-20 rule. The idea that 20% of where you currently spend your time produces 80% of your results. And if you're going to 10x your business, we have to figure out what's that 20% and how could I turn that into my 100%. And then what's fascinating is you do that again and again and again. And eventually getting to a point where the only things that you as the visionary are focused on is those things that produce outsized results. And that comes through focus. And so when we look at focus, we really need to look at 3 different things. The first is awareness for where you are. Like, where are you right now? If I say, like, hey, how do we get to New York? And you start giving me directions, well, there's a question that we might miss when we start to give directions, and it's, where are you right now? And I love to look at like where we are in our business in what I call like levels of retail. And I've taught this a few times, but I've really started to look at it pretty different. So if you've heard me share on it, this is different. And so level number 1 in retail is I just need some freaking money in my bank. Have any of you ever been there? Liars. Have any of us ever been there? We have, where you're like, I don't care about this strategy. I don't care about the foundation. I need to know what reel did you post that produced that $30,000 month that they posted about in the Boutique Hub, because I need to know what it is. Which, by the way, I do need to acknowledge, it was not just a conference, it was the Boutique Summit. And I'm super excited that Boutique Hub is here because it really brings a lot of my journey and Tara and all of this kind of full circle. And I'll share more about that tomorrow when Ashley is here and all of that. But in this first stage where we just need sales, like when you're struggling and when you're in this era, what do we tend to focus on? The question we typically are going to ask is how? How do I do it? How do I get these results? But it's not even how do I get the results, it's like, how do I edit this reel that's going to produce this thing? What app does this on my site that gives me this feature? Because as soon as I have this feature, boom, this is going to now work. But how many of you have gotten the app that was going to be the next thing and it didn't pan out like we hoped? Because when we're in that early stage, what we're not looking at is the foundation. And so what I want to encourage you, if you're in this stage, first off, it's normal. If you're an entrepreneur, unless you're funded through some outside source, which if you are, good for you. But if you aren't, that's it. This is a normal stage to be in. And it doesn't have guilt, and it doesn't mean that you're less than. The cool thing about where you are is you get to take 100% responsibility for it. And when you take ownership of like, where I am is completely my fault. I am where I am because of what I've done. But you know what's amazing about that? When we don't blame the algorithms, and when we don't blame Shopify, and we don't blame the government, and we don't blame these things, what do we get to do? We get to control it. If we say that COVID was the reason my brick-and-mortar store didn't do very well, what's the problem? It can't get better until COVID goes away. If we blame algorithms for the reason our business is where it is, our business can't grow until algorithms work in our favor. But as soon as we can say, like, the problem's not the algorithm, the problem is that I haven't figured it out yet. We now have control of the situation and can elevate where we are. So stage number one, so we just need money in the bank. And if this is you, my encouragement is to look at the next level and think, how could I think like them? How could I think a level up in my business? And so the next level is what you have. Any of us get a little bit of success in our business and we go, why am I blanking on the name? What's the shoes, the $600 sneakers? Golden Goose. You go and buy your Golden Goose sneakers and you or warehouses or whatever these things are. And we have a lot of pride, even in just our business being what it is. Like, we get into the 30K group from the hub and we're like, yes, like, this is incredible. And that is something to celebrate. But what do we do when we're in this stage? The good news is we probably are starting to focus less on how and more on what. Like, not how do I click the click to do the thing, but like, what are we really doing here? Like, what's the strategy that we're going to go about it? And so we have elevated in our thinking. The problem in this stage, and what I want to kind of warn against, is we tend to run ourselves into the ground here. This is the hustle time, like where we get the what, we've had success. The foundation's starting to come together, but we're hustling and we're eventually going to, if we don't figure out how to elevate to this next level, like, it's going to cause burnout. And so the third level is not that we just need money in the bank, and it's not what I have, but it's who you are. Who are you in your business? What are the things that you want? What do you want your life to look like, to feel like? And so what we want to think through is like, okay, how could we elevate our thinking? How can we elevate our beliefs to not be based purely on where I am, but like I talked about last night, to look at morning Josh, but 5 years in the future, say, what can I do to equip them to be the spouse, to be the parent, to be the boss, to be whatever it is that we want to be? Because ultimately, this is your life. I so wish this clicker was working. Okay, so the next thing we need to look at is where we're going. This is our vision. If we know that we're here and then we need to define where we're going, we need to have a crystal clear vision for where we want to be. And where we want to be isn't just a revenue number. In fact, if it is just a revenue number, I think you'll be surprised at how unfulfilling it is. Who here is over $1 million? Okay, so a lot of the room. Who here would say that when you hit $1 million, it was surprisingly less fulfilling than you thought it would be? Anyone? I love that Carly's like, yes! Like, there is no lack of enthusiasm. It is, if the revenue is the only thing, it tends to not be where we want. And so when we think about setting a vision, we first want to ask, like, where do you want your business to be? And don't just think, like, revenue is not a bad target at all. Like, revenue is a good thing, but revenue tends to be a lagging indicator. You have leading indicators, which are all the things on the front end, and you have lagging indicators, and those are the things that happen later. A diet, exercise, those kind of things are leading indicators. Lagging indicators is the number on the scale. So revenue is a lagging indicator. But the leading indicators, like, what do you want those to look like? What impact is your business making in the world? Like, what's your mission? What's your vision? What was it that initially got you into this? Like, fashion. It's funny because, like, let's be real. I'm a dude. I work in fashion. Like, I saw a thing the other day that had a bunch of girls, and it was like, what's your personality type? And there was like one Chad on the list, and it was like surrounded by women. And I'm like, that's me. But you know what I love about the women's fashion world is I know what it has the power to do. I have a 4-year-old daughter, and I love to go shopping with her. And can I look at her face when she puts a dress on and it twirls, and she looks at herself in the mirror and the confidence that she has. And I really do believe, like, that doesn't go away. Like, I know that stuff stays. The confidence that you can give to someone and the way you can make someone feel beautiful goes way further than just a dress. You don't just sell a dress. You do far more than that. I'm a little warm, but Tara told me I had to break up my white. So I'm wearing a hoodie. So first we're defining. It's good for pictures. And I'm weird. I like to be purposely underdressed. Is that weird? Like I don't, it's a weird thing. I don't know. So the first thing is, where do you want your business to be? And really think, like, what does it look like? What does it feel like? What impact are you making? A great exercise to do here is to write a future statement. Today is September 18th, 2027, and my business looks like this. And then you literally get into detail of, like, this is the interaction I had with my team. This is the customer. Sometimes I love to, like, close my eyes and I'll envision, like, who's the client that I'm working with? What did this thing, like, if you have a brick-and-mortar store, who are you handing a bag to? What's the look on their face? How do you feel while you're doing it? And really put yourself in that. You're kind of embodying it. What I can't wait for y'all to do is to join Crystal, because she's going to walk through some of these belief things, and, like, dear Lord, you guys are in for it with her. So the next thing is, where do you want your life? Your business might be one thing, but then where does your life fit into it? Because if you have the most successful business in the world, but your relationship with your kids sucks, is it worth it? I don't think so. If you don't enjoy your life, is it worth it? Would any of you right now, if I were like, get 10 million in your bank account right now, but for the next 30 years, you're going to have to be miserable. Would any of you take it? No, none of us would take it. But how many of us on accident chase that in our business? I can say this from experience. When I owned a point of sale company, I was miserable. We were growing, all of those things, and I hated it. Like, let's be real. Like, people submit a support ticket for a receipt printer. They don't even want to be talking to us, but it's Saturday. Anyway, I can get into that all day long. And then the last thing is, how does it feel? This has been one of the most powerful questions that my mentor, Taylor Welch, asked me one day. He was like, Josh, with where you're wanting to go, you wake up on a Thursday morning, 2 years from now, 5 years from now. It's just a random Tuesday morning. How does it feel? First thing in the morning, do you feel excited? Do you feel relaxed? Do you feel reactive, proactive? Like, just how would you describe the things in your life that if you reach this future version, you reach this thing, how's it going to feel? Because what's fascinating is we can start to identify these things in our vision. We can reverse engineer what needs to be in place in order to do that. If you don't want to feel reactive, you probably should not be the one in your business that is attached to the support inbox. That shouldn't be even attached to your email. You shouldn't be seeing it, because what happens as soon as you open it? I was talking with Amanda yesterday, and she was sharing with me, like, opening her inbox on a Saturday, said she wouldn't, but she did, and there's that email. How many of you ever gotten that email? And your brain was fine, and then you get that message, and now you're there. Well, if you don't want to be reactive, how can we start to move towards the things that are going to pull us away from that? And later today, when we get into operations, we're going to talk through team, and you're going to get to hear from Carly and talking through building a really healthy team and the things that make those things possible. And so I want us to look at where we want our business, where we want our life, and then how do these things feel to us? Because what this does for us is it can start to help shift our beliefs. And then the third question, and that's where this event is going to come in, but I don't want you to skip over these first two. If we don't have a clear vision, this is not always the case. There is 1,000 exceptions here, but I really do believe that one of the major causes of burnout is hustle without vision. It is not the cause of burnout. I want to be clear. I know that a lot of us are experiencing it for other reasons, But one of the reasons of burnout is we have no vision for where we're going and we're hustling. And if we have it's like being in a dating relationship that you just know is never going to lead to marriage. Like, unless you just don't want to be married, which kudos to you. But if that's, at least for me, like that would have been exhausting to be in that for that long and know that like I'm not moving towards something. So defining that vision, I don't want you to skip past. But then we want to ask the question, what is holding us back from our goals? And so there are several things that hold us back. And the first thing that holds us back is not how do we do it. It is not what app does this, or this. The number one thing that holds us back is what you believe. So first, what I want to say, that vision that you're thinking about, first off, I want to challenge you to set that vision a little higher. How many of you ever play safe when you set your vision? We play small because of belief. Our beliefs will dictate wherever we can go. And what actually happens here, so first what I want you to believe is that it's possible for you. If you go into a New Year's and you say, I'm going to lose weight, I'm going to get in shape, but you really don't believe that you're going to lose weight or get in shape or be able to keep it off, on Tuesday morning, will you get up and go to the gym if you really don't think it's going to pay off? Absolutely not. You have to believe not just that it's possible, you have to believe that it's possible for you. So what I want you to hear from me is I believe in you. And I hope that you can change this belief internally, but I want you to hear it from me. You wouldn't be here if you were not someone that is capable of getting to whatever that goal is for you. But you have to believe that it is possible for you. But the interesting thing about belief is it's kind of like, picture a spring attached to your back that's attached to a wall. Though our beliefs, literally, like if we run out, our beliefs will spring us back. And we may have that month where it just crushes it, but if we don't think that we deserve it, if we don't like really deep down believe that we are capable of that type of business, our beliefs will spring us back. So we have to change the way we believe, what we believe about ourselves and what is possible.